Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I remember that month like it was yesterday. The month it wouldn't stop raining. Every damn morning. The sky was the same dull gray. The kind that pressed down on you. The kind that soaked through your jacket before you even clocked in. The roads shimmered under sheets of water, truck tires hissing through puddles, and every puddle reflecting a world that felt tired and drowned. I'd been a truck driver for 15 years and rain had never bothered me much before. But that month, that endless stretch of wet days, it got under my skin. The kind of weather that messes with your head if you stare at it long enough. I drove for Northline Logistics based out of Henderson, Kentucky. Small outfit, maybe 20 of us on the road. I ran mostly between Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. My buddy Cole usually left around the same time as me, and we'd sometimes convoy part way, grab coffee at the same stops, shoot the breeze over the CB. That morning, I was standing in the lot at 4:30 a.m., rain smacking the brim of my cap when I saw something odd. Cole was walking across the lot with someone beside him. They had their arms around each other's shoulders like close friends, but something about it looked off. The other guy was taller, wearing this old tan raincoat with the hood up, face hidden. The way they moved, kind of slow, almost dragging one foot, I shouted over, "Hey Cole, you two going on a damn date in this mess or what?" He didn't even look up, just kept walking toward the trucks at the far end. I remember feeling a little ticked off. Cole wasn't the type to ignore you, not like that. But it was too early to care much, and I had a schedule to keep. So I climbed into my rig and my old Freightliner Cascadia and hit the highway. The rain followed me all the way to Louisville. A few days later, same story. Rain coming down sideways, wipers fighting for their lives. I was about halfway to Evansville when my boss Rick called. "Hey Luke," he said, voice tight. "You seen Cole this morning?" "No, why?" I asked. He didn't check in. "Dispatch says his GPS pinged once on Route 41, then went dead. We just found his truck parked on the shoulder with the door wide open." "What the hell?" "Yeah," Rick said. "No sign of him. Key still in the ignition. His phone was on the seat." That news hit me in the gut. I pulled over at the next rest area, rain pounding the roof like gunfire. Cole wasn't the kind of guy to just walk off. He was dependable, boring even, but solid. Rick was pissed, mostly scared underneath. "You drivers been acting strange lately," he barked. 2 weeks ago, Dale didn't show up for his morning run either. We found his truck locked but empty near the depot. Now Cole's gone. "What the hell's going on out there?" I didn't have an answer, just a knot tightening in my stomach. For the next few days, the mood around the yard was heavy. Guys talked less. Nobody wanted the night shifts. Every radio crackle made people jump. Then the news came that both Cole and Dale were officially missing. Their families hadn't heard a thing. Police were investigating, but that didn't mean much in small towns, especially with no leads. I tried to push through. Haul the loads, keep my mind straight, but the rain kept coming in a cold, endless drizzle that never stopped. One night around 3 a.m., I was fueling up at a lonely truck stop off I-64, the kind of place that feels forgotten. There was a payphone out front, buzzing under a flickering light. When I went inside to grab coffee, the clerk, an old guy with a lazy eye, muttered, "You're Northline, right? That your buddy's truck out back last week?" I froze. "What do you mean?" "White Peterbilt. Parked out there for a day and a half before the sheriff towed it. Door was wide open. Rain all in the cab." I nodded slowly. "That was Cole's." The old man looked uneasy. "Yeah, well, someone saw him that morning. Said he was talking to a guy in a tan coat. Thought it was weird, 'cause the dude didn't seem right in the head, just standing in the rain like he couldn't feel it. That made my blood go cold. I paid for my coffee and got the hell out of there. A week later, the rain finally eased up for 2 days. I remember stepping outside and feeling actual sunlight. It was strange when the air smelled like wet earth, but there was color again. The clouds pulled apart like curtains. For a moment, it felt like maybe all that weirdness was done with. Then came the next storm. It started at midnight. Thunder rolling across the sky like artillery. I had a run scheduled at dawn. I got to the depot early, coffee in hand, muttering to myself about the damn weather. My boots squelched through puddles as I crossed the lot toward my rig. That's when I saw him. A man was standing near the fuel pumps, about 30 feet away, head tilted down, rain pouring off his hood. Tan raincoat, same one I'd seen that morning with Cole. He looked up at me slow. His face was pale, water streaking down like tears. I froze. "Hey," I shouted, stepping forward. You were with Cole that morning." "Where is he? You know where he went?" The man started walking toward me, not running. Just steady steps, like he wasn't bothered by the downpour. When he got close enough, I could see his eyes. Wild, unfocused, like he was half somewhere else. He said, loud enough to hear over the rain, "Nice to meet you." "What?" "Nice to meet you," he yelled again, grinning now, lifting his arm. That's when I saw it. Something long and thin glinting in his hand. Looked like a damn needle. A big one, like something out of a vet clinic. Adrenaline hit me like a jolt. I stepped back, shouting, "Back off, man." But he kept coming. I swung my boot and kicked him square in the chest, hard enough to send him stumbling. I bolted up into my cab and slammed the door shut. My hands shook as I fumbled for the ignition. The truck roared to life and I hit the gas. As I pulled away, I felt this sharp sting at the side of my neck, like a bee sting, but hotter. I reached up and my fingers came back bloody. My heart damn near stopped. Had he jabbed me? How? I called 911, shouting over the engine. "There's a guy at Northline Depot, tan coat, tried to attack me. I'm bleeding." They told me to stay put, but hell no. I wasn't stopping until I saw cops. When the police showed up, they searched the yard and they found him. The man had crawled under one of the parked trailers, still holding that long needle. He didn't fight back. Just smiled when they cuffed him. His name, they said later, was Jeremy Hollis. Lived about 10 miles outside town in a rundown farmhouse. Used to be a welder for a construction company until an accident messed him up. During interrogation, he confessed to everything. Cole, Dale, and at least 3 other drivers from nearby counties. When detectives asked where they were, he said calmly, "They're at my house, in the basement." When they asked why, he tilted his head and said, "You wouldn't understand. It's the rain. When it rains that long, I get strange." One of the cops told me later what else he'd said, and I'll never forget it. When I was 10, it was raining like this. Me and my dad were driving behind a flatbed full of steel rebar. One of the bars slipped and went right through the windshield, through my dad's chest. I saw it all. The sound it made, the way he stopped breathing right there beside me. Now when it rains, I see that again. I hear it. I need to go find trucks. I can't help it. The rain makes me remember. Then he slammed his hands on the table and started yelling, "Let's go. I'll show you. They're in my basement. You'll see what the rain does." When the police raided his farmhouse, they found the basement door padlocked. They broke it open. Inside it reeked of mold, metal, and something else. Something worse. The walls were lined with rusted steel rebars, hammered into the concrete like trophies, and there, hung and nailed around them, were the missing drivers. Cole, Dale, and others whose names I didn't even know. Their eyes open, faces pale like they'd been posed. Jeremy had welded steel into the walls, said he was building something beautiful. He'd even kept their IDs and truck keys in a box labeled, "When it rains." I gave my statement to the cops. They said the puncture on my neck had just grazed the skin. I got lucky. The syringe he had was full of tranquilizer he used on his victims to knock them out. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep right. Every sound of rain brought it all back. I sold my truck a month later. Couldn't even drive past the depot without seeing Cole's smile, or that man's face under the hood. Sometimes late at night, when the rain starts tapping on the window, I still feel that sting on my neck. And I swear, I hear his voice faint just outside the glass. "Nice to meet you." I've been driving trucks for just over 20 years now, and I've seen about every weird thing this country can throw at a man behind the wheel. I've hauled freight through blizzards in Montana, dust storms in Arizona, and traffic so bad in Chicago I swore off city routes for good. But what I'm about to tell you still eats at me, the kind of memory that makes your stomach twist whenever the night feels too quiet. I wasn't some rookie when it happened. I was 46, seasoned, cautious, and had my own system for everything. How I planned my stops, how I parked, even where I laid my head each night. I used to laugh at other drivers who said they were superstitious about certain highways or rest areas. Now I don't laugh much. It was late October, right in that stretch between fall and winter when the trees start going bare, and every breath feels cold enough to sting. I'd been on a long haul out of Tennessee heading north toward Missouri, hauling a load of flooring tiles for a contractor supply chain. The route was simple enough on paper, 400 miles of mostly empty back roads, then up through the Ozarks and west. The rain started before I even hit Kentucky, a steady, unending drizzle that turned to sheets by the time I crossed the state line. I remember tapping the steering wheel and muttering to myself, "Damn, this rain ain't letting up tonight." I had my CB radio on low, and a guy out of Nashville was cracking jokes about how we ought to start building arcs. We all laughed it off, but I was tired. I'd been on the road close to 4 hours, and by law I had to stop for a break soon. I don't mess around with those rules anymore. One violation can take your license, and I'd worked too long to lose it. Trouble was, I was in the middle of nowhere. Thick forest on both sides, no lights, no exits, no rest stops. Just a narrow 2-lane road cutting through what felt like an endless tunnel of trees. When the GPS showed a small turnout ahead, I figured I'd take it. Nothing fancy, just a gravel pull-off by the tree line, a little stream nearby according to the map. I slowed down, signaled out of habit, though no one was around, and eased my rig in. The spot was tight but quiet. No streetlights, no other vehicles, just the sound of rain hammering the hood. I shut off the engine and listened to the metal tick as it cooled. It was peaceful in that weird way truck stops sometimes are, where your body's tired but your mind's wired. I got out, stretched, grabbed my toothbrush and splashed some water from the stream to freshen up. The air was cold enough to make my breath fog up. My flashlight beam bounced off the truck's chrome, catching my reflection. Tired eyes, gray stubble, a man who'd seen better days. Then I heard it, an engine in the distance. At first, I thought it was just another trucker passing through. But as the sound grew louder, I noticed something off. It was slowing down. The road curved just a few hundred feet from where I was parked, and the headlights soon spilled through the trees. A dark car, maybe a sedan. Its windows were tinted black. It crawled past me like it was sizing me up. I froze with my toothbrush still in my mouth. "Evening," I muttered under my breath, though I knew they couldn't hear me. The car rolled by slow, like real slow. My gut twisted. There's a certain kind of silence you only get when something ain't right. That was it. When the car finally disappeared around the bend, I spat, tossed the toothbrush back in the cab and locked both doors. Then, like any trucker who's been out too long, I looped the seatbelt through the door handle, a little trick we all use for extra security. Inside, I drew the curtains, cracked a can of chili from my cooler, and ate while scrolling through weather updates. Just rain, no storms, no warnings. After a while, my eyelids got heavy and I turned in for the night. Sometime later, I don't know how long, I woke up to a noise. Not thunder, not rain, footsteps. At first I thought maybe it was an animal, but the sound was too deliberate. Slow, careful, circling the cab. My breath caught. Every muscle in me went tight, then came a faint tap, right by the driver's door. I stayed dead still, straining to listen. Another tap, then a scrape. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice cracking from sleep and fear. Nothing. A few seconds later, bang! The whole truck shook. I jolted upright, heart pounding, and the adrenaline hit me like a jolt of lightning. Another bang, followed harder this time right against the door. "Hey, get the hell off my truck!" I yelled, snatching my flashlight. Silence. Then a muffled laugh, low, dry, like someone trying to hold it back. I could barely breathe. I flicked the flashlight on and pointed it at the windshield. Through the sliver between the curtains, I caught sight of a figure, tall, drenched from the rain, standing just inches from the glass. "Jesus," I whispered. He was wearing a black hoodie, the hood drawn so low I couldn't see his face, but what got me was what he held. A long, curved knife glinting in the beam of my flashlight. "Get away," I shouted, fumbling for the keys. I jammed them into the ignition. The engine sputtered, coughed, then stalled. Come on, don't do this to me," I hissed, slapping the wheel. Outside, he moved toward the driver's side. His boots crunched the gravel slow, deliberate, like he wanted me to hear every step. Bang! He slammed his fist, or something heavier, right into the door. I ducked down, heart hammering so loud it drowned out the rain. "Buddy, I swear to God, I'll call the cops," I shouted again. He didn't answer. Instead, he started laughing, full-on hysterical laughter now, like a man who'd lost his mind. I turned the key again. This time the engine roared to life. Through the glass, I saw his head snap toward the sound. I floored it, the tires spinning mud before gripping the road. As I pulled away, he ran alongside for a few seconds, impossibly fast, waving the knife and yelling something I couldn't make out through the rain. Then he stopped, standing dead center of the road behind me, just staring. In the mirror, I could see him raise the knife and point it straight toward me before the darkness swallowed him. I didn't stop driving until daylight. I pulled into a diner off Route 62, hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped my coffee. The waitress, an older woman with a warm drawl, took one look at me and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." Hon, I almost laughed, almost. Instead I said, "Something like that." I tried to explain, but halfway through, I could see it in her eyes, that polite disbelief. That look that says he's tired, poor guy's imagining things. I shut up, paid the bill, left. That night, when I checked my rig, I saw the proof. A dent the size of a fist on the driver's door and a smear of something dark. Maybe mud, or maybe blood. Since that night, I plan every route to the inch. I never sleep off the main road, and I always keep my sidearm close. Not because I want to use it, but because I know what's out there. Some folks say it's just people, junkies, thieves, crazies. But deep down, I don't think what I saw that night was just a man. He moved too fast, his eyes, I can still see them. Pale, almost white, wide with something that wasn't quite human. And his teeth, they were filed down. Sharp, like he'd done it himself. Every time I hit that stretch of road, Black Hollow Road they call it, I feel that same knot in my gut. The locals say that part used to be where an old rest stop stood before it burned down decades ago. A drifter went berserk and killed a driver with a hammer and knife before vanishing into the woods. Sometimes, on rainy nights, they say he comes back. I used to think stories like that were bullshit, trucker campfire tales. Now I keep my curtains open just enough to see the road when I park, and I sleep light with one ear open, because if I ever see that black sedan again slowing down by my rig, I'm not staying to find out who's inside. I've been driving trucks for almost 23 years now, and if there's one thing I've learned from the road, it's that silence can drive a man crazy. Not the good kind of silence either, the kind that eats away at your thoughts until you start talking to yourself just to prove you still exist. That night started like any other. I was parked at a dusty fuel stop off Highway 287, somewhere outside Amarillo, Texas. The neon lights flickered, casting a sickly green tint over the asphalt. My thermos was half empty, the coffee long cold. I just finished a run hauling steel pipes, up from Laredo, and was planning to get a few hours of sleep before heading back south, but plans don't mean much in this job. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore that kind of thing, but something made me swipe anyway. A man's voice came through, low, filtered, like he was speaking through one of those old tape recorders. "Is this Ryder Briggs?" "Who's asking?" I said, rubbing the tiredness from my eyes. "Someone who pays well." "I've heard you don't ask too many questions." That got my attention. Truckers like me live off word-of-mouth jobs, and when someone talks like that, it usually means cash under the table. Depends on what you're asking me to do. "A delivery, one item. You'll get the pickup address by text. No paperwork, no manifest. Just drive it to where I tell you. You'll get paid in full, half up front." There was a pause, then a ping. My banking app showed a deposit of $4,000. "You're not screwing around, huh?" I muttered. "I don't screw around, Ryder. I need discretion. No police, no questions. Do this right, and there'll be plenty more." The call ended. I stared at the phone a moment, wondering what kind of idiot just throws $4,000 at a stranger. But I wasn't in a position to argue. Rent was late, the truck payment was biting at my heels, and I'd been living mostly on diner food and caffeine for weeks. The text came seconds later, an address in a small town called Tucker's Bend, a couple hours east. I started the engine. The drive there was uneventful, save for the wind. It howled through the plains, slapping against my side mirrors like invisible hands. By the time I rolled into Tucker's Bend, the town looked half dead. One main street, a few shuttered shops, and a diner that looked like it hadn't changed since the 70s. The pickup spot was an old storage yard fenced with rusted chain links. A single floodlight flickered overhead, buzzing like a dying insect. A man waited there, tall, wearing a heavy coat and a cap pulled low. His face was shadowed. "You Briggs?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "You the one who called?" He didn't answer, just nodded toward the back of a covered trailer. Inside was a large wooden crate about 6 feet tall, reinforced with metal corners. "Looked old, older than the both of us. Load it up carefully," he said, "and don't open it. What's in there?" I asked. He hesitated before saying, "Something valuable." "Antiques?" He smiled faintly. "You could say that." I felt uneasy, but the man handed me a small envelope with another $2,000 in cash. He watched as I backed up my rig and used the lift to get the crate inside. Once it was secured, I turned back, but the man was already gone, swallowed by the fog creeping in from the field. By midnight, I was back on the road. The directions he gave me were strange, winding through back highways that barely showed up on GPS. "Avoid way stations," one text said. "Stay off main routes." That's when I realized something. Whoever this employer was, he didn't want the law seeing what I carried. Still, I told myself, it's just another shady job. Truckers like me get those sometimes, but around 2 a.m., things started to feel off. The crate, tied down tight with straps, made a sound, like a faint knock. Then another thump. Thump! Thump! I turned down the radio, frowning. "What the hell?" I pulled over to the side of the road, the tires crunching over gravel. The wind outside was cold enough to sting. I climbed out, flashlight in hand, and went around to the back. The trailer was dark, silent. Just my breathing and the hum of the engine. "Probably just shifting weight," I muttered, though I didn't quite believe it. When I aimed the flashlight at the crate, I noticed something strange. A fresh crack along one of the wooden panels, like something had pushed from the inside. "Damn," I whispered, running my hand over it. "That wasn't there before." I backed away, suddenly aware of how quiet the night was. Then, clear as day, I heard it. "Let me out." I froze. The voice was muffled, hoarse, like someone speaking through wood. "Please, let me out." My throat went dry. "Hello? Is someone in there?" I called stupidly, no response. Just another weak thump. I stumbled back to my cab, slammed the door, and locked it. My hands were trembling. I tried convincing myself it was just my imagination. Maybe the sound of air escaping from old boards. But deep down I knew I'd heard a human voice. Morning came gray and cold. I hadn't slept. The crate stayed silent. Around noon, my phone buzzed again. "The same number. You're behind schedule," I swallowed. "Yeah, I had to stop." "Something's wrong with the crate." "What do you mean?" "It's making noises, man. Like something's inside." Silence. Then, "Do not open it." "You didn't answer my question," I said, my voice shaking. "Is there someone in there?" "If you value your life, do not open that crate. Deliver it by tonight." No stops. The call ended. I stared at the phone, heart pounding. What the hell had I gotten into? By dusk, I was halfway through Oklahoma. My stomach churned with caffeine and nerves. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting something to crawl out from the back. The radio kept me company until it didn't. Around 8 p.m., static swallowed every station. Just a faint whispering underneath, like voices buried under snow. And then the knocking returned. Louder this time. "Thump, thump, thump, God damn it!" I yelled, slamming the steering wheel. "What do you want?" A sound answered, not words but laughter. Faint, raspy, wrong. I hit the brakes and skidded onto the shoulder, shaking. Nope, I'm done. I jumped out, went around back, and yanked the latch. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I aimed it toward the crate. The wood was moving. I swear to God it was breathing, rising and falling like a chest drawing air. "You promised you'd deliver me," the voice whispered. I stumbled backward, heart slamming in my chest. "Who the hell are you?" "You're the last one, Ryder, the last driver." Then the wood split open like something clawed from the inside. I didn't wait to see what. I bolted, sprinting back to the cab, flooring the gas so hard the tires screamed. I drove blind, headlights carving through the dark. Every few seconds I glanced at the mirrors, nothing. But I could feel it. Something was still in the trailer. Hours passed in a blur. I don't remember crossing state lines. I barely remember the turns. My body just drove, like I wasn't in control anymore. Then the voice came again, inside my head this time. Keep driving. You're doing so well. My vision blurred. The road stretched and twisted like rubber. The rumble of my engine grew into a roar that felt alive. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel. Stop! Stop talking to me, I muttered, gripping my head. Don't stop the truck. If you stop, they'll find you. Who? Them. Then, like a switch flipped, red and blue lights filled my mirrors. Police. Sirens wailed behind me. Oh no, 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 I whispered. Not now. They'll destroy me, the voice hissed. Drive, Ryder. I should have pulled over. I wanted to pull over, but my foot pressed harder on the gas like it wasn't even mine anymore. The truck screamed past 90, 100. The cops right behind me. Over the radio, I heard the dispatcher yelling, "Driver of the blue Kenworth, pull over immediately." "You're endangering lives." "I'm trying," I shouted, tears burning my eyes. "I can't." The steering wheel jerked on its own. My body locked up. Every muscle tensed like I was being puppeteered. "We're almost there," the voice said, softer now. "Almost home." Through the windshield, I saw flashing barricades, smoke, the shimmer of a cliff's edge ahead. "Please," I whispered. "Don't make me..." Freedom. The truck veered off the road. I woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later. Bandaged, bruised, alive. They told me 23 people were injured in the crash. 2 didn't make it. My rig had torn through the barricade and plunged partway down the ravine before catching on fire. But here's the thing that made my blood freeze. When they found the trailer, it was empty. No crate, no debris that matched it. Not even ashes. When the sheriff came to question me, I told him everything. The phone call, the man at the yard, the voice in the box. He just looked at me with that cop look that says, "You're full of it, but I'll pretend to listen." "There's no record of any call, Mr. Briggs," he said. "And your bank transfer?" "It's gone. No trace." I tried to explain again, but my voice cracked. I sounded insane. When they finally discharged me, I drove straight back to Amarillo, to that same gas station where it all began. The place looked smaller now, quieter. I sat there a long time, watching the road disappear into the night. Every truck that passed made my skin crawl. And then, just as I was about to start the engine, my phone buzzed, unknown number. My heart stopped. I hesitated, then answered. "Good work, Ryder," the distorted voice said. "The delivery's complete. You'll be contacted again soon." My throat was dry. "Who the hell are you?" "You'll know me when you see me." Click. The line went dead. I sat there in silence, my reflection staring back at me through the cracked windshield. "Only my reflection?" Smiled first. I've been a long-haul trucker for over 20 years now, and I've seen my fair share of strange things on the road. From UFO chasers in the Nevada desert to meth heads wandering across the freeway like zombies. But nothing, and I mean nothing, ever shook me like what happened one summer night driving eastbound on Route 84. Back then, I was running loads for a small outfit out of Amarillo, Texas. They weren't exactly top-dollar jobs, but they paid steady, and that was all that mattered to me. My wife had just left me a few months prior, took the kids and moved in with her sister in Kansas City. I couldn't really blame her. I was gone 3 weeks out of every month, and the road had made me bitter. It's not easy to hold a marriage together when your only routine is truck stops, static radio, and the sound of diesel engines idling under neon lights. That night, I was hauling a 40-foot dry van full of imported electronics. At least that's what the manifest said. Truth be told, I rarely checked. As long as the trailer was sealed, it wasn't my business what was inside. The delivery was supposed to go from Los Angeles to Houston, and I was running about 6 hours behind schedule because of a massive wreck on the 210 earlier that day. It was close to 10 p.m. when I stopped at a gas station just outside Las Cruces, New Mexico. The air was still hot, the kind of desert heat that sticks to your skin even after the sun's gone down. I filled up both tanks, grabbed 2 Red Bulls, a microwaved burrito, and called it dinner. I hated that jittery feeling caffeine gave me, but it beat dozing off behind the wheel. When I came out, I noticed a guy standing by the off-ramp, holding a cardboard sign that said El Paso. He was tall, maybe 6'1", and lean, not scrawny, but the kind of build that said he'd done hard labor. He wore a faded army green jacket and carried a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Normally, I don't stop for hitchhikers. Company policy says not to, but I've bent that rule before. I've picked up soldiers, stranded travelers, even one guy who claimed he was walking to see his dying mother. Sometimes it's nice just having someone to talk to. The road gets lonely when your only company is your own thoughts. I don't know why, but something about this guy made me slow down. Maybe it was the way he looked, like he'd been through hell and was still walking through it. "Hey man," I yelled out the window. "Where you headed?" He stepped closer to the cab, squinting against the headlights. "El Paso, if you're going that way," he said. His voice was deep but calm, polite even. "I'm passing through there. You can hop in if you want," I said. He gave a quick nod and climbed up into the passenger side without hesitation. "Name's Ray," I said, offering a hand. He stared at it for a moment before shaking. "Cole," he replied. His grip was firm, calloused. "Appreciate the lift, man. Not too many folks stop these days." "No problem," I said, shifting gears and merging back onto the freeway. "You from around here?" "Used to be," he said quietly, eyes fixed on the side mirror. "Haven't been back in years." For a while, we just rode in silence, the hum of the tires filling the cab. The desert rolled by, mile after empty mile. I figured he'd open up eventually. They always do. After maybe 30 minutes, I tried again. "So what takes you back to El Paso?" "Family," he hesitated. "Sort of. My ex. She just had a baby." "Not sure if it's mine." "Damn," I muttered. "That's rough, man." He didn't say anything, just stared out the window, jaw tight. I noticed he kept glancing at the mirrors, the side one especially. Every minute or so, his eyes darted to it like he was expecting something to appear. "You all right there?" I asked, half joking. "You look like you're waiting for someone to tail us." Cole's lips twitched slightly. "Just making sure we're not being followed." I laughed uneasily. "You in some kind of trouble?" He turned to me, expression blank. "Aren't we all?" That line stuck with me. Something about how he said it, like he wasn't joking. The next hour passed in silence, and the road seemed endless. Every now and then I'd catch him checking that mirror again, his body tense. The more he did it, the more it started to bother me. We were maybe 20 miles east of Las Cruces when I felt the truck jerk slightly, like I'd hit a small object. Then came a rhythmic thump, thump, thump from the rear axle. "Shit," I muttered. "Probably a blown tire." "You might want to pull over," Cole said quietly. "Yeah, I will," I said, guiding the rig onto the shoulder. The desert stretched out black and empty on both sides. No lights, no cars, just the soft roar of the wind. When I stepped out, the heat hit me again. I walked around to the trailer, flashlight in hand, expecting to see a shredded tire, but what I saw instead made my stomach twist. The seal on the back of the trailer, the heavy-duty padlock that's supposed to stay intact until delivery, was gone. Snapped clean off. "What the hell?" I muttered. Before I could think too hard on it, I heard footsteps behind me. "Everything all right?" Cole's voice came from the darkness. "Yeah," I said, though my voice didn't sound convinced. "Seal's broken. Somebody must have cut it back in Long Beach or something." He stepped closer, the beam of my flashlight catching his face. His eyes looked tired, but something else too. Paranoid. "You open it?" he asked. "No," I said quickly. "Ain't my business what's inside." He nodded slowly, like that answer mattered. Then he said, "You should get back in the truck." Before I could ask why, there was a noise from inside the trailer. A dull thump, followed by a dragging sound. I froze. Cole's voice dropped low. "Don't open it. What the hell's in there?" I asked. He looked at me, his expression dead serious. "People." My stomach sank. "What?" "I didn't plan on this, Ray. I swear to God I didn't. But you picked me up and now you're part of it." "What the hell are you talking about?" I shouted, backing away. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "You ever hear of the Mesa County escape?" "Happened 3 nights ago." "Yeah," I said, my voice trembling. "Ain't that the one where 3 inmates killed a guard and got out?" Cole nodded slowly. "Those 3. They're in your trailer." Before I could even react, headlights flared in the distance, several of them. Then came the faint echo of sirens. Cole's entire body went rigid. "Shit! They found us." He ran around the truck and climbed back into the cab, yelling for me to follow. I didn't move. "I'm not going anywhere, man." He pointed a gun out the window. "You are now." For a split second I thought about running, but something in his eyes told me he'd pull the trigger without hesitation. So I got in. He slammed the truck into gear and floored it. The sirens were getting closer now. red and blue lights flickering in the side mirrors. "You want to tell me what the hell is going on?" I yelled over the roaring engine. "I was supposed to pick them up," he said. "I did time with them in Iraq, not prison war, but one of them didn't make it back right. He started doing stupid shit when he got out. The other two followed. They busted out of county 3 days ago, killed a guard, and I told him I'd help. Help," I barked. "You dragged me into this." He didn't answer. His hands were tight on the wheel, eyes darting between the mirrors. Behind us, the sirens grew louder. A spotlight swept over the back of the trailer, and I heard a metallic rattle from inside, like someone trying to force the door open. Then the gunshot. Cole fired out the passenger window, glass shattering everywhere. I ducked instinctively as the truck veered off the road, bouncing hard before crashing into a ditch. The sound was deafening. Metal, gravel, breaking glass, and then silence. When I opened my eyes, I was slumped against the steering wheel, blood trickling down my temple. The smell of diesel and burnt rubber filled the cab. Cole was gone. Outside, I heard shouting, police, guns drawn, flashlights cutting through the night. I stumbled out, hands raised. "I'm just the driver," I yelled. "He took my truck. I didn't know nothing about this." They cuffed me anyway, dragged me to the side while they cleared the trailer. The doors swung open, and I'll never forget what came out. 3 men, filthy, wild-eyed, shackled together by a chain that clinked as they moved. They weren't fighting. They weren't running, they were smiling. One of them, a bald guy with tattoos crawling up his neck, looked right at me and grinned. "Thanks for the ride, trucker," he said. I don't remember much after that. They said Cole was killed in the crash. 2 of the convicts were shot dead. The third disappeared into the desert. My truck was impounded as evidence. When they finally let me go, one of the officers handed back my license. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said. "But maybe next time take a look at the signs before you pick someone up." On my drive back to Amarillo, I saw one of those signs myself, weathered and rusted, half buried in the sand. "State prison area. Do not pick up hitchhikers." That was the last time I ever offered a stranger a lift. Now, every time I see someone thumbing on the side of the highway at night, I get that same uneasy feeling, like something's watching from the dark, just waiting for another trucker to stop, and I keep driving. I've been on the road for over 15 years now, and let me tell you, truckin' will either make you a poet or a paranoid bastard. Long nights, empty highways, and too much time to think can mess with your head. I haul freight across the Pacific Northwest, mostly between Oregon and British Columbia. It's a route I could drive blindfolded, though I wouldn't recommend it. That night I was hauling a load of machine parts from Eugene up to Prince George. Nothing special. I had the radio low, coffee lukewarm, and the road all to myself. I'd been driving since morning, planning to shut down at a rest stop near a small town called Fairvale, but I missed the damn exit. My GPS glitched, and before I knew it, I was pushing another 40 miles with a bladder ready to burst. The highway had gone dead quiet, no taillights, no oncoming beams, not even a distant rig. Just me and the Rockies cutting black shapes against the horizon. The only sounds were the hum of my tires and the occasional pop of the radio static. It wasn't unusual, but something about that night felt off. I finally gave in and pulled over on a narrow shoulder where the road curved around a steep hill. I left my hazards on, climbed out, and stretched until my spine cracked. My back screamed from 10 hours of driving. The cold hit my face, sharp and damp. I walked toward the tree line to take a leak. The pines there were tall, packed so close together it looked like the forest had swallowed the moonlight whole. When I was done, I pulled out a cigarette, lit up, and took a slow drag. The kind of drag that feels like it's grounding you in place. That's when I noticed movement between the trees. At first, I figured it was a deer, the way it darted low and fast. But the motion didn't feel right. Too erratic. I squinted through the smoke, and that's when I saw him. A man stepped out from the dark woods. Tall, thin, wearing a hooded jacket and jeans. The way he moved made my stomach twist, like his limbs didn't belong to him. "Hey," I called out, trying to sound casual. "You all right, man?" He didn't respond, just kept walking toward the shoulder, slow and steady. No car, no flashlight. No reason to be there. My gut screamed at me to get back in the truck, so I did. I climbed in, locked the doors, and kept my eyes on him. He stopped maybe 5 feet from the passenger window. The hood cast a shadow over most of his face, but I could see his eyes, wide, hollow, reflecting the red blink of my hazard lights. He lifted one hand and tapped on the glass. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. My pulse jumped. I leaned toward the window, rolling it down just an inch. "Yeah, what's going on?" He spoke in a voice that sounded dry and cracked, like he hadn't used it in days. I need you to call the police." "Okay," I said slowly.
What's wrong?
"You hurt?" He shook his head, and that's when I saw the knife in his hand. A small folding blade glinting under the truck's lights. "Whoa. Hey, easy," I said, hands raised. "Put that down, man." He didn't even seem to notice I'd spoken. He lifted the knife and started scratching the side of his own head with it. Not deep, just dragging the tip against his scalp. "I was gonna kill myself," he muttered. "Walked out here to do it. But then I saw my girls' faces. I couldn't go through with it." His voice broke on that last part. He looked like a ghost, face pale, lips cracked, eyes red and dry. My instinct said to drive away, but something else, maybe pity, maybe fear, kept me there. I fumbled for my phone. "I'll call for help, all right? Just stay right there." He didn't move. Just stood by the window, tears cutting tracks down his dirty cheeks. I called 911, explaining everything as calmly as I could. The operator told me to stay in the cab until officers arrived. I tried talking to him while we waited. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Caleb." "All right, Caleb, I'm Jack," I said, keeping my tone steady. "You're doing good, man. Just put that knife down, yeah? We'll get you help." He looked confused, like he didn't understand the words. Then slowly he crouched and set the knife on the ground. "You got kids, Jack?" he asked suddenly. "Yeah, 2 boys." He nodded, eyes distant. "Then you get it. That look they give you when they're scared? That's what stopped me." We sat there in silence for a few minutes, me inside, him outside, both of us just waiting. The highway stayed dead quiet. Every few seconds I checked my mirrors, hoping to see flashing lights. Finally, they came. Red and blue reflections washed over the asphalt like salvation. I've never been so relieved to see cops in my life. They ordered him to step back, cuffed him, and started asking questions. One of them, a younger officer with a buzz cut, came up to my window. "You the one who called it in?" "Yeah," I said, exhaling for what felt like the first time in minutes. "He's not hurt, just not right in the head." They thanked me, said they'd take it from there. Before they led Caleb away, I got out and walked over. The wind cut through my jacket, but I didn't care. "Hey," I called out. He turned his head barely. "You walked out of those woods, man. That means something. You made the right choice tonight." He didn't speak, but his lips trembled into something like a smile. Then they put him in the cruiser and drove off into the darkness. I sat back in my truck, heart still pounding. My cigarette had burned itself out in the ashtray. I stared at the knife the cops had left behind on the gravel before one of them came back to collect it. It was a small thing. Just a cheap folding blade, but it looked wrong lying there, like it belonged to the woods, not to the world we lived in. That night, I parked at the next truck stop and slept in the cab, but I didn't dream. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, those empty eyes staring through me like glass. It's been 4 years since then. I still drive that same route sometimes, and every once in a while, when I pass that curve near Fairvale, I catch a glimpse of someone standing by the tree line. Just a figure, tall, still, watching. Maybe it's my mind playing tricks. Maybe it's Caleb, or maybe it's just the shadow of guilt for not doing more. But one thing's for sure, I never pull over on that stretch again, no matter how bad I gotta go. I've been trucking for close to 15 years now, and I've seen my fair share of weird stuff out on the road. But what happened that night still makes my hands shake when I think about it. I was hauling hydraulic equipment from Reno down to a construction site just outside a small town in Idaho called Pine Ridge. My dispatcher told me I'd be on a tight delivery schedule, so I planned to drive through the night to make up for lost time. The trip started out like any other, empty stretches of road, truck stops with burnt coffee, and the radio keeping me company. I called my wife, Kelly, right before I hit the interstate. "You sure you're okay to drive through the night again?" she asked. I could hear the worry in her voice. "Yeah, babe," I said. "I'll stop if I get too tired." "I'll be fine. You know me," she sighed. "You always say that. Just promise me you'll pull over if something feels off." "I promise," I said. "Now go to bed before you start nagging." She laughed softly. Be safe, Jay. That laugh lingered in my mind longer than I realized. After about 4 hours on the road, rain started to drizzle, light at first, then heavy enough to make the wipers squeal. The sky flashed every few seconds, lightning rippling through the dark clouds. The roads up near Pine Ridge aren't exactly forgiving, especially at night. No streetlights, no shoulder, just endless black and the hiss of rain. By the time I got off the main highway, it was near midnight. My eyes were heavy and my back felt like it was full of gravel. I figured I'd find a spot to park for the night, get a few hours of sleep, and start again before sunrise. I found a dirt clearing off the side of a back road. Not an official rest area, but it looked safe enough. There was a big oak tree nearby, its branches stretching out like arms. I parked under it, killed the engine, and leaned back with a sigh. I pulled out a sandwich Kelly made for me, cold turkey and mustard on white bread. It tasted like home. The rain had stopped by then, but a sharp wind started blowing. I cracked the window an inch to let some air in and just listened. The kind of quiet you only get out there. No cars, no people, just wind and the hum of cooling metal. When you've been trucking long enough, you get used to sleeping in weird places. I closed the curtains, leaned my seat back, pulled my jacket over me, and dozed off. I must have been asleep for about an hour when I heard it. The faint click of a door handle. At first, I thought I'd dreamed it. Then it came again. Click, I sat up, eyes wide open, trying to shake off that foggy half-sleep. You know that feeling when you wake up suddenly and your heart's already pounding because your body knows something's wrong before your brain does? I listened. Nothing but the wind. Then a soft metallic jiggle. Someone was trying the driver's side handle. Every nerve in my body lit up. I slowly pulled the curtain back just enough to peek outside. The headlights were off, but the moonlight was bright enough to see the empty dirt road stretching out ahead. No cars, no movement. Just that old oak tree, its branches swaying. Who's there? I called out, my voice shaky. No answer. Then, another click. This time from the passenger side, I turned fast, my heart pounding against my ribs. Still nothing. I flicked on the cab lights, but the windows just showed my reflection. Jesus Christ, I muttered. It's probably the wind. Just the damn wind. But when I leaned closer to the glass, I noticed something odd. The condensation on the window had a smudge, like someone had breathed on it from the outside. I started the engine. The rumble of the diesel made me feel safer somehow. The headlights flared, cutting through the night. There was no one there. Not a soul. I shut the engine off and sat in silence for a while. My nerves were shot, but I told myself to stop acting crazy. Maybe a branch had brushed the door. Maybe I was hearing things. Then, from the back of the sleeper, something rattled. At first, it sounded like the air vent flaps fluttering in the wind, but it kept going, rhythmic, deliberate. Tap, 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 like someone running their fingers along the vent cover. I froze. Every muscle in me tensed. Then came the handle again. Rattle, rattle. This time harder, urgent. Hey! I yelled. Back off! The handle stopped, then came a thud. A heavy one. Like something landed on the roof. I grabbed my flashlight and aimed it at the windshield. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear it. Slow footsteps on the metal roof. Soft but heavy enough to make the truck creak. Another thud. This time behind the cab. God damn it, I hissed, reaching for the panic button near the bunk. I slammed it. The truck alarm exploded into the night. The sound was deafening, echoing through the trees. I expected whoever was out there to run, but instead, I heard more movement, scraping, pounding, like multiple hands slapping against the sides. Thump, thump, thump. Then something hit the windshield, hard enough to crack it in the corner. I shouted, scrambling back. The alarm blared. I couldn't think straight. I saw shadows moving outside, darting past the lights, low to the ground, fast. Not running like people, more like crawling. The suspension hissed like something was climbing up the frame. The metal popped under the weight. Then, silence. Just like that, everything stopped. The alarm kept going, echoing across the empty field. Then it too shut off. I sat there shaking, clutching a tire iron in both hands. My breath came in short bursts. I waited, staring at the door, the windshield, the side mirrors. Nothing. After what felt like hours, a pair of headlights cut through the night, a trucker rolling down the road. I'd never been so relieved to see another rig in my life. I didn't sleep after that. I kept the engine running and waited for daylight. Every few minutes I'd grip that tire iron tighter, expecting the sound to come back. When the first bit of sunlight hit, I finally got out. The dirt was still wet from the rain, but the ground around my truck looked wrong. There were smears, dark ones, across the metal panels. I walked closer and my stomach dropped. It was blood. Long streaks of it ran down the sides. And on the windows, tiny handprints. Not adult-sized. Not even teenager-sized, child-sized. The prints were smeared. Some half slid down the glass like whoever made them was dragging their hands as they fell. I walked a few feet out, scanning the ground for footprints or tire tracks, anything. But there was nothing. Just dirt, dry and undisturbed. No sign anyone had ever been there. I stood there for a long time, feeling the wind brush past me. Then I cleaned the glass and wiped off the blood before anyone drove by. When I finally got back in the cab, I noticed something inside the windshield crack, like streaks on the inside of the glass. I leaned closer. There were more prints. Small, greasy handprints on the inside. I drove the rest of the way without stopping once. That night when I called Kelly, she said my voice sounded different. Shaky, distant. I didn't tell her what happened. I just said the delivery went fine and that I'd be home in a couple of days. But every night since, when I park the truck and shut off the engine, I swear I can hear it again. The faint rattle of a door handle, polite at first. And sometimes if I look at the windshield too long, I still see those tiny smudged handprints glowing faintly in the dark. I've been a trucker for 15 years, give or take. Seen every kind of night America can throw at you, from quiet stretches of desert road where the sky feels endless, to the thick pine highways where your headlights only reach as far as your nerves can handle. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened last winter on Route 191 in northern Arizona. Back then, I was running long hauls for a freight company out of Flagstaff. Mostly machine parts, tools, and packaged goods for small towns and reservation stops. Pay was decent, hours brutal, but that's trucking. It's in your blood or it ain't. My wife Kayla used to say I'd be happier sleeping in that rig than our own bed. She wasn't wrong. I liked the road, the solitude, the hum of the engine, the quiet when you're miles from anyone else. Out there, you learn to live with silence. But sometimes, silence listens back. It was early January. Snow had just started falling across the high desert, light enough to stick on the edges of the road but not enough to slow traffic. I had a delivery run to make to a construction site in Utah, the same route I'd done dozens of times before. I left the yard around 8 p.m., got fuel in Winslow and figured I'd make it past Mexican Hat before catching some sleep. I was a few hours in when the CB started crackling. "You still out there, Boone?" That was Ray, another driver who ran the same loop as me. "Yeah," I answered. "Coming up on the 191. Wind's picking up, but it's clear so far. You be careful through that stretch near Comb Ridge. Heard some folks been seeing weird stuff out there." "Weird stuff?" "Kid on the road. Folks say they've seen him standing dead center of the lane, middle of the damn night." I laughed. "You serious?" "Dead serious. Couple of drivers swerved because they thought it was real. Cops checked, said there wasn't any kid. No tracks, no prints, nothing. I brushed it off. You hear stories all the time out here. Phantom hitchhikers, ghost cars, lights in the sky. Truckers love their tales. Keeps them awake. But later that night, I'd wish I'd listened. Around 2:45 a.m., I was rolling through a lonely patch just south of Bluff, Utah. The snow had stopped, and the moonlight gave the desert that pale silver glow. My coffee was lukewarm, my eyelids heavy. I turned on some old Johnny Cash to keep myself company. That's when I saw him, a small figure standing in the middle of the lane, red hoodie, head down, facing my truck. My heart damn near jumped out of my chest. I slammed the brakes, tires, screeching across the thin sheet of snow. The whole rig shuddered. When I came to a full stop, my headlights framed the kid dead center. He couldn't have been more than 6 years old. "Jesus Christ," I muttered, grabbing my flashlight and stepping down. "Hey kid, you okay? You hurt?" He didn't move. I took a few careful steps closer, The wind cut sharp against my face. My boots crunched in the snow, echoing too loud in the empty dark. I was about 20 feet away when I realized something was off. The snow around him was untouched. No footprints, no tracks leading to him or away. And then, he was gone. I blinked, looked around, even checked under the trailer. Nothing. Just empty road. Must be the damn fatigue, I whispered to myself. Climbed back in, shut the door, locked it. But the shaking in my hands didn't stop for a while. Next morning, I rolled into a diner truck stop just outside of Blanding. Place was mostly empty except for 2 other rigs and a waitress who looked like she'd been up since the Reagan era. She poured me coffee and smiled tiredly. "You look like hell, honey." "Didn't sleep much," I said, staring at the steam rising from the cup. "Listen, you ever hear about some kid out there on the 191? Red hoodie?" Her smile vanished. She glanced toward the window like she was checking to make sure no one else was listening. "You saw him too, didn't you?" I froze. "Two?" She nodded slowly. "Couple of drivers been talking. Said a little boy's been showing up near the ridge since that accident last year." "What accident?" She sighed, wiping her hands on a rag. "Family in a minivan. Slid off the road during a snowstorm. Rolled down the embankment. They didn't make it. Cops said they found the father, the mother, but not the boy. Missing. Never found his body," she said quietly. "Some say he's still trying to find his folks." I didn't say anything, just stared into my coffee till it went cold. 3 days later after that, I tried to shake it off. Told myself I'd imagined the whole damn thing. Maybe I'd zoned out. Maybe a trick of the lights. But deep down I knew better. 3 nights later I was back on the same stretch. This time hauling a heavier load, with the snow coming down thicker. I kept the radio low, trying to stay calm. My headlights barely pierced the white curtain in front of me. Around 3 a.m. I passed the same area where I'd seen the kid. My stomach tightened. The wind was howling now like it carried whispers through the canyon walls. That's when my radio hissed. "Boone. You there?" "Static. Don't stop." I grabbed the mic. "Who's this? Ray, that you?" No response. Just the low hum of static that started to sound almost like breathing. Then something tapped against my driver's side door. 1, 2, 3 slow taps. I flicked the spotlight to the side mirror. Nothing there but snow. I rolled forward, heart hammering. When I checked again, small handprints were smeared across the glass, bare and wet like something had pressed against it from the outside. I swear to God I almost jumped out of my skin. I didn't stop driving till the sun came up. A week later, dispatch routed me through the same area again, like fate wanted to see how much more I could take. My rig had been acting up, engine light flickering on and off. Around 1:30 a.m., near the ridge again, the truck sputtered and died. "Aw, hell. No," I muttered, pounding the wheel. "Not here." I called for roadside assistance, but the signal was garbage. Dead zone. Figures. So I killed the lights, locked the doors, and tried to wait it out. The cold seeped in fast, fogging the windows. Then came the sound, that same soft pitter-patter, running circles around the cab. I froze, barely breathing. It wasn't coyotes, it wasn't the wind. A small voice whispered through the CB speaker, clear as if it were sitting next to me. "Mister, can you help me find my mom?" I dropped the mic like it burned me. "Who is this?" I shouted. "How the hell did you—" The voice giggled. A soft, drawn-out sound that made my blood turn to ice. "She's in the snow." I flicked the lights on. The windshield fog cleared just enough for me to see. And there he was, the kid in the red hoodie standing right in front of the truck looking up at me. I reached for the ignition. The key turned, engine roared back to life on the first try. I didn't think, I just gunned it, drove until the road curved and the ridge disappeared in the rear view. Only then did I see the tiny handprint on the inside of my windshield. I didn't tell dispatch. Didn't tell Kayla. Just said the truck needed maintenance. Spent 3 days at home pretending like everything was fine. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that red hoodie, that pale face staring through the glass. A few days later, Ray called me. Boone. You heard what happened to Jenkins? No, what? He was on that same route. Found his rig pulled over, engine still running. No sign of him. Door open, tracks leading out into the snow. Little ones too. I didn't say a word. Just listened as Ray's voice broke. They said they found the boy's footprints next to his, but they stopped after 20 feet. I tried to quit after that. Told Kayla I was done with trucking. Started applying for warehouse gigs. But the bills piled up faster than the courage to move on. So when dispatch called asking for one last emergency delivery, same Utah route, I said yes. Figured facing it head-on might end whatever the hell had started. I left at sunset. Sky bled orange over the desert. Every mile closer made my stomach twist. When I hit the ridge, snow began falling again, just like before. The radio stayed silent. No static, no voices. Just the hum of the tires and the storm. Then, out of nowhere, the interior lights flickered. My dashboard glitched. Speedometer spiking. Radio flashing numbers that made no sense. I slowed down, peering ahead. Through the snow, I saw a small shape walking along the shoulder. The red hoodie. This time I didn't stop. I couldn't. But as I passed, my headlights caught his face. Pale, hollow eyes staring right at me. He lifted his hand slowly, pointing, up toward the ridge. I followed the direction with my eyes and saw something I'll never forget. A rusted minivan, half buried in snow, its windshield shattered, driver's door still open. My breath caught. The wreck was real. I pulled over, shaking, grabbed my flashlight, and climbed the embankment. The van was old, registration from last year. I brushed away the snow from the rear window. Inside were faded children's toys, a car seat, and a small tattered red hoodie. Right then the wind picked up. I heard footsteps behind me, light, quick, like a child's. I turned. Nothing. Just my own tracks. Then a voice whispered, right next to my ear. Thank you. The air went still. My flashlight flickered and died. When I looked back at the van, the red hoodie was gone. They finally towed that wreck out a week later. Sheriff said it matched the missing family's van from the year before. The boy's body was never recovered. I haven't seen him since that night. But sometimes when I'm running the late shift in another state, I'll catch a flash of red in my mirror, just for a second, like he's saying hello. I still drive, not for the money anymore. Maybe out of habit, maybe out of guilt. And every time I see a kid standing by the road, I slow down, just in case, because some passengers never really get off the highway. I've been on the road for close to 15 years now, and I've seen my fair share of weird things. Folks always assume truckers make up stories just to pass time at truck stops. But I'm telling you straight, what I saw that night still makes my stomach turn whenever I drive through the desert after dark. Back then, in 2017, I was working for a small freight company out of New Mexico. Nothing fancy, just me, my rig, and a bunch of contracts hauling whatever needed moving between states. That week, I was running a late-night haul through the stretch of desert between Lordsburg, New Mexico, and Globe, Arizona. Anyone who's driven that route knows how empty it gets once you're past the last gas station. Just sand, scrub, and a whole lot of nothing. I was hauling home appliances for a regional store chain. Washers, dryers, refrigerators. Nothing hazardous. The kind of load that rattles just enough to keep you awake if you're lucky. I wasn't so lucky that night. I'd been awake nearly 20 hours living off gas station coffee and beef jerky. The kind of tired where your mind starts to blur the lines between real and imagined. My headlights were dim as hell. I'd been putting off replacing them for weeks. Normally, it wasn't a big deal with some highway traffic around. But that night, it was pitch black in every direction. I remember saying out loud, "Damn, feels like I'm driving through the void," and chuckling to myself just to break the silence. The CB was quiet, No chatter from other drivers. No taillights, no stars, just me and the dark. About an hour. Before sunrise, I started thinking about pulling over for a nap. I had a rest stop marked on my GPS about 20 miles ahead, but I didn't know if I'd make it that far. My eyes burned and I could feel myself zoning out. Then something caught my attention, a faint flash up ahead. At first, I thought it was a reflection, maybe a road sign or animal eyes. But as I got closer, I realized it was the blinking of hazard lights. I straightened in my seat, rubbing my eyes to be sure I wasn't imagining it. "What the hell?" I muttered. I eased off the gas. There was a car sitting dead center on the road, not on the shoulder, not angled like it broke down, literally right on the yellow lines. Its hazards flickered weakly, reflecting off my dusty windshield. The weirdest part? The passenger door was hanging wide open. I hit the brakes hard and the tires screamed against the asphalt. The truck came to a stop barely a foot from the back of the car. My heart was pounding. For a second, I thought I'd hit someone. But when the dust settled, there was no movement, just that eerie orange blink. I climbed down from the cab, the hot wind smacking me in the face. The desert has this way of making silence feel heavy, like it's pressing down on you. The only sound was the click-click of the hazards and the soft hum of my cooling engine. It was a dark blue Chevy Malibu, maybe a 2014 model, still looked pretty new. The driver's side door was shut tight, but that passenger door, it swayed a little with the air creaking. I called out, "Hey, you okay in there?" Nothing. I tried again, louder this time. "You need help?" Still nothing. I grabbed my flashlight from the cab and walked up slowly. I kept expecting someone to pop their head out or shout back, but when I leaned down and shone the light inside, it was empty. Seats were clean. Cup holders had a couple empty Red Bull cans and a phone charger. No purse, no wallet, no people. That's when I started getting uneasy. It didn't look like an accident, no damage, no skid marks. Just an empty car parked dead in the middle of nowhere. I checked the back seat. Nothing but a folded jacket and a pack of gum. I opened the glove box. Just papers. The key was still in the ignition, but the engine was off. "All right, this is weird as hell," I whispered. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting someone to be walking up. The desert can play tricks on you, and I swear I could feel eyes on me. I should have just gone back to my rig and driven off. But something in me, maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, told me to check the trunk. If someone was hurt or passed out, I couldn't just leave. The trunk was locked tight. I pulled the key from the ignition and hit the unlock button. I heard the latch pop, but when I tried to lift it, nothing. It wouldn't budge. Felt like something heavy was holding it down. I frowned and muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." That's when I noticed a small rope tied through the latch, keeping the trunk cinched shut from the inside. My stomach turned. I'd seen enough true crime shows to know that wasn't normal. I opened the back seat and crawled through the small gap into the trunk space. My flashlight beam bounced over 3 black garbage bags shoved toward the back. They weren't huge, but they looked heavy, sunken in the middle, tied tight at the top. I froze. My mouth went dry. I didn't want to touch them. Before I could decide what to do, a gunshot cracked through the still night. The sound echoed off the desert walls like thunder. I jerked up so fast I slammed my head against the car roof. "Shit," I hissed, clutching my head. My heart was hammering. Then I heard it. A voice, rough, raspy, and close. "Hey!" it yelled. My flashlight dropped from my hand, clattering to the asphalt. I scrambled out of the car and stumbled backward. The voice yelled again, louder this time. "Hey!" That's when I saw him. A man was standing maybe 50 feet away, just outside the beam of my truck's headlights. He was short and stocky, wearing a dirty white tank top and grease-stained jeans. He had a red beard and a shaved head, and in one hand he held a small rifle, the kind you use for hunting. In the other hand was a shovel. For a second, we just stared at each other. I was frozen. He looked terrified, not crazed, like I was the one intruding. He yelled, "Don't move!" and started walking toward me. That snapped me out of it. Bolted back to my semi. I don't remember climbing up, just the slam of the door behind me, the engine roaring to life. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped the gear stick. As I started to pull away, I saw him in my mirror. He dropped his shovel and waved both arms, shouting something I couldn't make out. Then he started running after me. Hell no, I muttered, flooring it. The truck lurched forward, tires screeching. I didn't care if I blew the transmission. I just needed to get out of there. In the mirror, I saw him sprint back to the Malibu. A few seconds later, its headlights flared to life. He was coming after me. My breathing got shallow. The road was narrow, and my semi wasn't built for speed. I called 911 on speaker, my voice shaking as I tried to explain. This is Randy Cole. I'm a truck driver on Route 78 outside of Black Ridge. There's a man chasing me in a blue Chevy. He's got a gun. The dispatcher's voice was calm. Sir, slow down. Are you hurt? No, but he's right behind me. I think he fired at me. All right, officers are being dispatched. Stay on the line with me. I checked my mirror again. His car was right on my tail. He honked and flashed his lights over and over, swerving side to side like he wanted me to pull over. My knuckles went white on the steering wheel. I shouted into the phone, "He's trying to run me off the road!" Sir, stay calm. Keep driving straight. Help is on the way. For 15 minutes, that bastard stayed on me, horn blaring, headlights flashing like some kind of demented signal. I could feel the trailer swaying. My mind kept looping through what was in that trunk, those bags, that rope. Finally, red and blue lights appeared ahead. 2 cruisers, parked sideways across the road. I almost cried with relief. The Malibu swerved at the last second, cutting right and tearing off into the open desert. The cops jumped into their cars, but it was useless. He disappeared into the sea. Dunes, headlights bouncing until they vanished completely. When I stopped, my hands were trembling so bad I could barely shift into park. The officer who approached me looked like he'd been woken up from a nap. Sir, you the one who called about the chase? He asked. Yeah, I said, voice cracking. He's got a gun. Fired it. There's a car back down the road. Trunk. Tight shut, garbage bags inside. He raised his hands. All right, slow down. We'll check it out. You sit tight, okay? I begged him. He's not that far, man. You can catch him if you leave now. But he shook his head. Backup's on the way. We'll take care of it. He took my statement, calm as a Sunday morning. I must have told him 3 times that the guy went north toward the dunes. He just nodded, said they'd investigate. They never called me back. I heard later that the police found the car, abandoned, just like I'd seen it. But the trunk was empty. No bags, no rope, no sign of the man. They said it was probably some local hunter who panicked when I stopped. That's what they told me anyway. But I know what I saw. And I still wake up sometimes hearing that single gunshot echoing in my head and seeing that look in his eyes. Not anger, not insanity, just pure panic. Like he'd been caught doing something he wasn't supposed to. I still drive nights. It's in my blood. But every time I pass through an empty stretch of desert and I see a pair of hazards blinking in the dark, I don't stop anymore. Not for anything. Because out there, in the middle of nowhere, you never really know what or who you're pulling up on. I've been driving 18-wheelers for close to 17 years now. I started right after my divorce when the house felt too damn empty, and I figured if I couldn't sleep anyway, I might as well get paid to stay awake. Long nights on the interstate became my therapy. Just me, the hum of the engine, and a stretch of blacktop that never asked questions. Back then, I told myself I liked the freedom, but the truth is the road makes ghosts out of men. You lose birthdays, funerals, whole seasons. Your memories start to smell like diesel and burnt coffee. This happened 2 winters ago, somewhere outside Amarillo, Texas. Exit 47 to be exact. A truck stop I'd never noticed before, even though I'd run that route half a dozen times. I was hauling a load of paper goods from Oklahoma City to Albuquerque. Nothing special, just another Tuesday night run. I'd been driving close to 11 hours, so I was already pushing it. My dispatcher, Rick, had been blowing up my phone all evening. Rick, over the radio. "Hey man, you make it past Groom yet? Gonna need you in ABQ by 7 a.m. Me. Yeah, I'm rolling. Might stop for fuel, need coffee bad. Rick. Ain't no big stations till Vega. Keep your eyes open for some small ones, there's a new one off exit 47 or something. Heard good food." I laughed under my breath. Good food and truck stop don't usually belong in the same sentence. It was around 12:40 a.m. The highway was dead, the kind of cold where your breath fogs the windshield even with the defroster on. Then I saw it. A faded green exit sign. 47 Bickford Services. Fuel, food, lodging. The ramp dipped low and curved past a line of wind-gnarled trees. Beyond that, the glow of sodium lights cut through the dark. It wasn't a big place. 2 pumps, a diner, and maybe a dozen parking slots for semis. There was a half-lit sign buzzing over the convenience store. Bickford Travel Plaza, open 24/7. I parked near the far end, killed the engine, and climbed down. My boots hit wet pavement, some kind of oil-slick puddle that shimmered darkly under the lights. Inside, the air smelled like burnt bacon and floor disinfectant. A woman behind the counter looked up from a crossword puzzle. She was maybe mid-40s, tired eyes, blonde roots grown out. Me. Evenin'. Coffee still on? Clerk. If you don't mind, it's strong enough to strip paint. Me. That's the kind I like. I poured a cup, paid, and leaned against the counter. The place was dead quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Me. Kinda. Slow night, huh? Clerk. Usually is round this time. You driving long haul? Me. Yeah. Paper run. Been up since 6. Clerk. You boys never sleep. She smiled faintly, then looked past me toward the window. Her face tightened. Me. You good? Clerk. Yeah, just thought I saw someone by the pumps. I turned around. Nothing but my rig and a rust-colored Peterbilt idling a few spaces down. I noticed one weird thing, though. Its passenger door was wide open, swinging slightly in the wind. Me. That someone yours? Clerk. Don't know. That truck's been sitting there since 9. Driver came in, bought a pack of smokes, and I ain't seen him since. She said it like she'd been trying not to think about it. I stepped outside, coffee in hand. The Peterbilt's engine rumbled low, steady. Inside, the cab light glowed faintly, but the curtain behind the seats was drawn tight. Me, calling out. Hey, driver. You good? No answer. I took a few steps closer. There was something lying on the ground near the front tire, a small puddle of dark liquid glistening thickly. I crouched, touched it with my finger. Sticky, not oil, not coolant. Me, quietly. Ah, hell. I wiped my hand on my jeans. The air smelled faintly metallic like pennies in rain. I knocked on the door, no movement. Then the radio inside crackled. A low static-filled voice came through. Don't let it in. I froze. The CB sputtered again, hissed, then went dead. My chest went cold. I stepped back, scanning the lot. Every truck was dark, every cab still, just the hum of engines, and that endless prairie wind. I told myself it was probably some interference, some idiot's channel bleeding over. But the voice, it sounded right there. I went back inside. The clerk was talking to someone who had just walked in. A girl, maybe 22, wearing a faded red hoodie and ripped jeans. She looked soaked, like she'd been caught in a storm. Girl. Hey ma'am, you got a payphone? My ride left without me. Clerk. Far wall near the restrooms. Girl. Thanks. She passed close by me, and for a second I caught a smell, damp fabric, and something else. Something like iron. Me. You all right there, miss? Girl. Yeah, just cold. She tried to smile, but her hands were trembling so bad she dropped a quarter before reaching the payphone. The clerk gave me a look, like, don't ask. The girl picked up the receiver, pressed it to her ear, and stood there. Not dialing, not speaking, just listening. Me, to clerk low. She from around here? Clerk. Never seen her before. I thought she came in with that Peterbilt driver, but he went out back. Me. Out back? Clerk. Said he was gonna stretch his legs. That was hours ago. I don't know what made me check. Maybe the way the girl kept glancing toward the door. Maybe just trucker instinct. The back of the stop was pitch black except for one flickering light over the dumpsters. The wind was sharp enough to sting. There was a trail of wet footprints leading from the corner of the building toward the woods. Bare feet. Small. I followed them halfway, about 20 yards past the lot, before they just stopped. The ground ahead was bone dry. Behind me, something metal creaked. I turned. The Peterbilt's headlights flicked on by themselves, bright white slicing through the dark. Then they turned off. I backed away slow, every nerve tight. When I climbed back into my cab, I locked the door out of habit. The air inside felt wrong, too still. I flipped on my CB, hoping for chatter. Me, into Mike. Breaker 19, anybody out here on 40 West? Got a weird situation at exit 47, anybody copy? Static. Then, faintly, you shouldn't have followed the prince. I dropped the mic. The voice was calm, male, but it sounded like me. I stared at the radio until my own reflection in the windshield started to blur. Outside I could see movement between the trailers, something low to the ground. Crawling. There was a knock on my passenger door. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was the girl in the red hoodie. She looked terrified, her breath fogging the glass. Girl. Please, can you give me a ride just down the road? Me. What's going on? Girl. He's back there. Me. Who? Girl. The man who picked me up. Her voice cracked. I hesitated. Every rule I'd ever learned screaming, don't pick up strangers. But something in her face. She was shaking, crying. Me. Get in. She climbed up fast, slammed the door. Her clothes were soaked again, even, though it hadn't rained. Me. Where to? Girl. Just drive. So I did. The road curved past the empty diner lights, then merged back onto the interstate. Me. You hitchin'? Girl was. He said he'd take me to Amarillo, then he stopped here. Me. The guy with the Peterbilt? Girl nods. Yeah, he went inside to buy cigarettes. I waited. He never came back. Then I heard him, under the trailer. Me. Under. Girl. He was talking to someone, whispering. Then I saw blood drip down the steps. She wiped her eyes. Me. You call anyone? Girl. Phone didn't work. I glanced at my CB. The red light was on, but the frequency number kept flickering like someone was keying the mic on and off just barely. Me. You sure you're not hurt? Girl. It's not mine. She looked down at her hands. There was dark residue on her palms. That smell again, metallic, sweet, wrong. We drove for maybe 10 minutes. No other headlights in sight. Then I noticed something strange. My odometer hadn't moved. The GPS still said exit 47 Bickford Plaza. Me. That can't be right. The girl stared out the window. Girl. You can't leave until it's done. Me. What? Girl. He left the door open. I slammed the... Breaks me. What door? Girl. Yours. I looked in the side mirror. My passenger door was open, swinging in the wind, but she was still sitting right beside me, except now, her seat was wet. Water pooling beneath her. Me. What the hell? She turned her head slowly, toward me, her eyes wide and black like glass. Girl. You shouldn't have followed the prince. The lights went out. I woke up to sunlight streaming through the windshield. My truck was parked exactly where I'd started, at Bickford Plaza. Engine off. The diner was empty, doors chained shut. The sign above the store was dark, half the letters. Missing BCK Ord. I stumbled out shaking. No other trucks in sight. No red hoodie girl. Just one thing. Near my front tire, a wet slipper dripping dark. I left. Didn't even fuel up. Didn't call dispatch. Just drove until I hit the next town. A week later, at a Flying J in Tucumcari, I overheard two drivers talking at the counter. Driver 1, "You hear about that fellow went missing out near exit 47? Driver 2, "Which one? Lot of folks go missing out there." Driver 1, "Nah, this one's new. Found his rig running with the door open. Passenger seat soaked through like someone poured water all over it. No driver." I didn't say word. Just sipped my coffee and tried not to shake. When I got back on the road, I checked my dash camera footage. It had recorded everything until 12:47 a.m., the moment I picked up the girl. After that, nothing. Just static. But right before the feed cut, you can hear me say, "Where to?" And faintly beneath it, her voice again. Exit 47. Last month, curiosity, or maybe guilt, got the better of me. I was passing through Amarillo again, and the GPS pinged the old exit. There was no truck stop, just cracked pavement and weeds. A burned-out shell of a building that might have once been a diner, but parked out front was a single rust-colored Peterbilt. Engine idling. Passenger door open. I didn't stop. As I passed, my CB crackled on its own. Don't let it in. I've been thinking about quitting the road. Rick says I'm just burnt out. But sometimes, late at night when the fog hits and the white lines blur, I see that red hoodie in my passenger mirror. And once, just once, I saw a small handprint appear on the inside of my windshield. Wet, dripping. The stain wouldn't come off. I had the glass replaced last month. It came back the next morning. I've been on the road most of my adult life. You give me a map and a rig and I can tell you the best truck stops, worst diners, and every stretch of road that'll chew your tires for breakfast. I wasn't born into it or anything. My old man worked maintenance at a steel mill in Kansas, but he always said I had diesel in my blood. Guess he wasn't wrong. After high school, I worked odd jobs, auto repair, warehouse loading, even janitorial shifts, but none of them stuck. Then one day I met a guy named Riley who ran hauls for a small logistics outfit. He told me the pay wasn't bad, and if I didn't mind long nights alone, it'd be steady work. I liked the sound of that. So I got my CDL, scraped together, enough for an old Peterbilt, and never looked back. 15 years later, I was still doing the same damn thing, alone, wired on bad coffee, chasing miles and minutes. Trucking gives you this strange rhythm, you know? It's quiet but heavy. You spend so much time in your own head that the silence starts talking back. That week, I'd been driving routes for McKinney Freight, a company out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. They handled all kinds of cargo, mostly hardware, farm equipment, and bulk goods. I was doing a solo run from Casper to a small depot just outside Helena, Montana. Simple job. I'd done that route maybe 50 times, but that night, it didn't feel simple. Nothing about it did. It started like any other Tuesday. The air had that early spring chill that still bites your skin in the high plains. I'd loaded my trailer just after lunch and checked the weight logs twice. 42,000 pounds even. Everything checked out. I even cracked a joke with the dock worker. 42 on the dot. Must be my lucky day. He grinned. Lucky? Man, I don't think I've ever seen you take a break long enough to have luck. Sleeps for the week, I joked, tapping the thermos hanging by my seat. Coffee and country music, that's my fuel. He shook his head. You old-timers are something else. Old-timers? I said. Buddy, I still got my hair. Can't say the same for you. We laughed, but I was already tired before I even hit the road. That was my first mistake. I rolled out of Casper around 3 p.m. The sky was cloudy, a soft gray that looked like it could rain or snow if it felt like it. The plan was simple. Push straight through the night, reach Helena by dawn, and crash at the depot bunkhouse before my next pickup. By midnight, I was still about an hour and a half out, somewhere between Roundup and White Sulphur Springs. The road was empty, just long ribbons of blacktop cutting through forests and plains. Every now and then, a ranch light would flicker in the distance, but for the most part, it was just me and the hum of the engine. The radio had gone to static about 30 miles back, so I'd been riding in silence. My eyelids were heavy and I caught myself blinking longer than I should have. I slapped my face. "Come on, Logan," I muttered to myself. "Stay sharp, man." Yeah, Logan Avery. That's me. 38, divorced, 2 kids in Kansas I don't see near enough. My ex Tara remarried a guy who works tech out in Denver. He's a good dude. My boys like him. But every now and then I feel that sting when my youngest calls him dad by accident. That night I'd been thinking about them more than usual. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the exhaustion. My mind just wouldn't stop wandering. Then, it happened. It was 12:43 a.m. when I first saw it. A pile of something lying right in the middle of the road. I slowed down, thinking maybe a deer had been hit. I flicked on my high beams. It wasn't an animal. It was a dress. A red one. Looked like satin or silk. Something fancy. The fabric fluttered slightly in the wind from my truck's movement. Frowned. The hell? I eased past it, staring down from the cab. My headlights stretched far enough ahead to show more. A pair of boots maybe 30 yards further, and then a jacket, small like a kid's size. A cold pulse ran through my chest. My hands tightened on the wheel. What the hell's going on? Out here? I said out loud, even though no one could hear me. I coasted the truck to the shoulder, heart thumping. The CB radio hissed with static as I reached for it. Breaker 9, anyone got ears on 47 North? I'm seeing some weird shit on the road. Clothes everywhere, anybody nearby? Static, not a word. I turned it off. The nearest town was still 30 minutes away. If this was some kind of accident, I might be the only one who'd see it for hours. That thought gnawed at me. I wasn't the type to ignore someone in trouble. So I grabbed my flashlight, stepped down from the cab, and let the cold Montana air smack me in the face. My boots crunched on the gravel. It was eerily quiet. No wind, no crickets, not even a truck hum from miles away. Just me and that pile of fabric. I walked closer, beam trembling slightly as I shined it ahead. The dress looked freshly dropped, clean, not dusty. I crouched, touched it. It was wet, cold and wet, like someone had been wearing it not long ago. That's when I heard it, a snap from the trees to my right. I froze. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound steady. "Anyone out there? You okay?" Nothing, just silence stretching into my chest. I swallowed hard. If somebody's hurt, I can call for help. I got a radio, a truck. Another sound cut me off. A whimper. Soft, high-pitched, like a little girl crying. "Jesus Christ," I whispered, my throat tightening. I turned toward the sound, my flashlight jittering against the tree line. "Hey, where are you?" The crying got louder, but weirdly, it didn't sound natural. It had this metallic echo to it, like it was coming through a speaker. I couldn't place it at first. I stepped closer, heart racing, trying to peer through the dark trunks. Then I saw movement, a shadow ducking behind a tree about 30 yards in. That's when my instincts kicked in. Get back in the damn truck. I backed away slowly, keeping the light steady. "All right, I'm going back. Just stay there. I'll call someone," I said, voice shaking. Another crunch, this time from behind me. I spun around, nothing there. The forest suddenly felt alive, like every inch of darkness was watching. My hand was trembling so bad the flashlight's beam wobbled like a drunk snake. I turned and ran back toward the truck, boots pounding the gravel. My breath fogged in the cold air. I yanked open the door and climbed in, slamming it shut. My pulse was hammering in my ears. "God damn it," I muttered. What the hell was that? Then before I could even start the engine, something hit the side of my trailer. A dull, heavy thump. I froze again, staring out the side mirror. Another thump followed. Then a scrape. Like someone dragging a crowbar down the metal siding. No, no, no. I fumbled with the keys, turning the ignition. The engine roared, to life. As my headlights lit up the trees again, I caught movement. 4 figures, no, maybe 5, ducking behind the pines. One of them was holding something rectangular, a speaker. That's when it clicked. They were using recorded sounds. The crying wasn't real. "Oh, you sons of bitches," I whispered, shaking. I slammed the truck into gear. Just as I did, a rock or maybe a hammer hit the passenger window, spiderwebbing the glass. "Hell no," I shouted, stomping on the gas. The truck roared forward, tires spitting gravel. In my mirror, I saw one of them run into the road, waving. Their arms. Couldn't see their face, just a hood and a pale glint under the light. I didn't stop. For the next hour, I didn't speak, didn't think, didn't even breathe properly. I just drove. When I finally saw the lights of Helena in the distance, I felt like my whole body deflated. My hands ached from gripping the wheel so hard. I pulled into the depot lot around 2:15 a.m. The night guard, Kurt, came out smoking his usual Marlboro. "Jesus, Logan, you look like you've seen a ghost," he said. "Not a ghost," I muttered, sliding out of the cab. People, yeah, out on 47, bunch of them, tried to flag me down or worse." He frowned. "You serious?" I nodded. "They had a speaker, playing a kid crying, clothes all over the road. They were trying to lure somebody." Kurt dropped his cigarette. "Shit, you call the sheriff?" "I was gonna, but I just needed to get out of there first. I can call now." He nodded and went inside to grab the office phone. I sat down on the loading dock, head in my hands, trying to calm the shaking in my chest. When the cops arrived 20 minutes later, they took my statement. Deputy Harlan, older guy with a heavy mustache, wrote everything down without saying much. "So you're saying they were using fake cries to lure you off the road?" he asked. "Yeah. And when I didn't fall for it, they started throwing things." "Jesus," he muttered, rubbing his chin. "You did the right thing not stopping. We'll send a unit out that way." The next morning, I got a call. It was Deputy Harlan again. "Mr. Avery, we went out to that area you mentioned. Found the clothes. All of it, just like you said." I waited for the but, he continued. "No signs of anyone. No footprints worth a damn, and no tire tracks either. Almost like they came out of the woods and disappeared back into it. You think they're still out there?" He sighed. "Could be drifters. Could be worse. Either way, don't stop on that stretch again, all right?" "Believe me," I said quietly, "I won't." Weeks passed, but I couldn't shake it. Every time I passed a dark stretch of highway, I'd feel my chest tighten. I even switched routes for a while, but truckers talk, and one night, while fueling up near Billings, I overheard two drivers at the counter. "Did you hear about that family in White Sulphur?" one said. "Car broke down on 47 last week. They went missing, mom, dad, kid." "Damn. Cops found their car?" "Yeah. Still running, doors open, no sign of them." I froze. My heart sank straight into my stomach. That was the same stretch. I didn't say a word, just paid for my coffee and left. Sometimes, when I'm deep into a haul, I think about that night. The fake cries, the shadows in the trees. I think about how close I came to stepping a few feet deeper into those woods. If I had, I probably wouldn't be here to tell this story. You spend enough time on the road, you see all kinds of things. Accidents, drunks, wild animals. But nothing prepares you for the moment you realize some monsters don't hide under your bed. They hide on the highway and they wait for the next driver, the next good Samaritan, the next fool too tired to think straight.